Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, what do you get when you combine a rhetorical question and a joke? Today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Tiny Town's Villagers from AEG. Hello everybody, we'll get back to the review in just a second. I just want to take a moment to ask you to go ahead and check out and subscribe to my other channel, that is Cody Carlson PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that. Please check that out, please subscribe, and now, back to the review. Tiny Town's Villagers, AEG, is an expansion that introduces some fun, cute little critters into your game of Tiny Towns. Now there are a few different kind of shapes for these villagers, these critters that you're going to use on your board, and they really don't matter. You just begin the game with 3 of them. What they look like I say, it doesn't matter. You place them in the corner of your game board. Now, during the course of the game, they're going to move, and they're also going to prove somewhat useful to you. Now, this expansion also does have some new cards. You're going to shuffle in those cards into the regular decks of cards for this game. And then you're going to also get some villager cards. What you're going to do is you're going to shuffle those. You've got a 1 and a 2. You're going to go ahead, you're going to shuffle those and put out 2 of those cards that have different costs on them next to the game board. You're going to be able to use those throughout the game. Also, too, you're going to get a lodge board. You put your lodge board next to your kind of your player board, and you're ready to roll. Now you're going to play the game more or less as normal at the beginning, but if ever you place a cube in the space with a villager, that villager is going to move. Of course, orthogonally. He's not going to move diagonally, but he's going to move out of that space. They don't like to hang out where there are resources. However, if you place a resource in a space with a villager, and that is the last resource in order to make a building, if you place that building in the villager space, guess what? That villager is working in the building. That's what you want. You want to put those villagers to work. Now, assuming you got villagers to work on your turn, you can go ahead and consult the villager cards. Now, some of them will say you have to pay 1, 2, or 3 working villagers in order to take advantage of them. But they have some pretty powerful abilities that will really help you organize your player board, construct buildings, etc., etc. But what you do is you remove those villagers that are working, you put them in your lodge. Then, as soon as it's the end of the round, you can place those villagers back on the corners of your player board. Those covers are cornered, then they've got no place to come back in. But essentially, that's the game. You are placing those villagers, you're moving them if you're putting resources down, you're trying to build buildings in them so that they can work for you, and then you can spend them in order to activate the special abilities on the villager cards. But you're also using the new abilities on the building cards that you're constructing and the monuments that you're constructing, and you are continually trying to keep those villagers working. So that is essentially it. That's essentially how the game is played, what this expansion brings to the game. There is kind of I think it's called Tiny Tiers, which is kind of like a more difficult setting. I haven't played that yet. But essentially, this is the basic level for the basic game expansion for Tiny Towns. Now, I recently reviewed Fortune, Tiny Town's Fortune, which I think is essential. I probably won't play the game without it. I really like Fortune. Villagers is interesting. It's a fun new mode to play the game. It does bring some interesting things to the game. Now, the various abilities that come off of the villager cards, they can be kind of fun and useful, but for as relatively short as the game is, they're not as useful as I would have liked them to be, because it's very difficult to maneuver. It can be very difficult to maneuver your guys into those working locations. Honestly, I don't know that this is one that I will play with always. I may break it out once in a while, but for me, the way to play this game is the standard game with the villagers, or with the Fortune expansion, standard game and the Fortune expansion, and then maybe once in a while add the villagers. I don't feel like The Villagers is an essential expansion. Fortune is, this one isn't. It's fun once in a while. So with all this said, I'm going to go ahead and say try it before you buy it. I like the expansion. I didn't love it. I don't think it's necessary, but it can be fun to play once in a while. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history. Please check that out. Please subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And also, please give a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. That helps us out a lot as well. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I have 2 half-sisters. Now, my parents weren't previously married. They're just really lousy magicians.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
One Japanese reserve must go to the Southwest Pacific Theater, down to Papua New Guinea.
Ooh, good shot.